Hello, my name is Jason J. Rock Houston. You guys are listening to an interview being done tonight for Under of Influence. My great pleasure to be speaking with my good friend Vince Thrill, who's the lead singer of Public Enemy No. 1, which is a great Motley Crue tribute out of Phoenix, Arizona. And oddly enough, tonight we're going to be speaking with Vince about Motley Crue's debut album from 1982, Too Fast for Love. Because Vince, as you were sharing with me in preparing for the interview, this is your all-time favorite Motley Crue album, so I thought it'd make for a cool conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is the album that got it started. You know, a lot of people think it was Shout, but they failed to realize that Too Fast came out in '81. Actually, was the first press release of that. It was 900 copies. It was released on November 10th of 1981.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was the first time it was released. It made 900 copies and sold those out of the back of the car. So yeah, they sold around Hollywood, and that's how they got started. But yeah, a lot of people think Shout was the first record, and then they go back and they look and they're like, wow, there was a record before that. And,
that would that would make sense. Why in the Decade of Decadence album it was like 81 to 91? Because I understand there are actually 3 different pressings of Too Fast for Love, as you were saying.
Yeah, there are. Yeah, and then they re-released it, like you said, in 1982 under Elektra. That was on August 20th of '82. They released it under Elektra Records when they got signed with Elektra.
Yeah, and now Vince, go back to was it 1981 when you got your hands on the album, or did you get it like a lot of people when it was officially released in 1982?
No, I actually got it in 1982. There was such a limited production. If you weren't in LA or Hollywood, you weren't going to get one of those copies, and those copies are worth a lot of money these days. I think they're going for like $2,000 or $3,000 a copy. If you can find one, so
yeah.
They're pretty rare. Yeah, so actually, '82 was when I got mine. I had heard of Vince before singing for a band called Rock Candy in LA, and so I was like, wow, I think that sounds pretty good. And then to find out he ended up with Motley Crue was kind of strange. So
well, that's kind of interesting. Now you of course reside these days in Phoenix, Arizona. Is that where you have always lived?
Yeah, I've always lived in Arizona all my life.
And so talk to us a little bit about what was the point when you first heard Motley Crue for the first time, like going back to 1982? Was it on the radio? Because again, a lot of people like me grew up in the LA area, so that was hometown for the band. But what was it like being a guy from Arizona, hearing Motley Crue on the radio? What was your first experience hearing Motley Crue?
My buddy actually lives in California, and then he's the one that actually turned me on to Motley Crue. He was the one that told me about Vince. We were talking about Rock Candy, and then we were New York Dolls fans too. So he's like, hey man, there's a new punk rock band out called Motley Crue, and he's like, you have to hear their music. It's really good. He said, there's a song that blows me away called Livewire on that, and it's amazing, man. And he said, you just have to hear that song. And so that was the first song I'd ever heard by Motley Crue was Livewire, and I was blown away.
Wow. And so again, so after your friend exposed you to this great new up-and-coming band, Motley Crue, what did you think, after you got the album Too Fast for Love, or when you heard one of these songs on the radio for the very first time?
It was amazing. When I first heard the album, I was like, wow, this song is great. It's got to be on the radio soon. And it wasn't but a couple of weeks after I heard the song that it actually came on the radio here in Arizona. I think it was in California for probably a couple of months prior to us ever receiving it. But when we finally got it on the radio, I was telling my buddy Mike, I said, hey man, it's about time that they got this song on the radio over here in Arizona. Because he's like, man, this song's been on the radio for a couple of months here. I'm like, yeah, we always get it loud. So.
Yeah, and then, one of the songs, oddly enough, that I really love off the album is the song your band is named after, Public Enemy No. 1. I mean, that has just got such a great rock feel to it. I mean, it's so raw, and I mean, you hear it all the times in movies and TV shows. And that's one of the standout tracks to me, but, even to this day, it does not really sound dated.
Yeah, me too, and that's actually why I named the band that. It's one of my very favorite tracks off that album, and if you didn't know, that was the very first video that Motley Crue ever produced was Public Enemy No. 1.
Yeah, and so
a lot of people thought it was Livewire or something like that. It was definitely not that. It was Public Enemy No. 1, and so that was really cool. There's a couple of things that I really liked about about the song is one, it was the very first video that they ever got to make, and I think they made that video for like back then it was like $5,000, which was a ton of money in '81 for 4 teenagers trying to make an out or make a video. So it was really expensive.
And so I imagine, it's one thing, to have your friend expose you to this band. You hear the song Livewire for the first time, and then you go and get the album, and that must give you another impression of the band. So once you had the album in your hand, what was that like? When you heard it from start to finish for the very first time, what were your initial thoughts on the album and the band?
I was blown away. I liked how raw it was. It sounded like now today's records often have so much processing going on, and mixed downs and everything like that. It was raw. It was like something if you went to a concert at a small club like the Troubadour or the Whiskey or whatever, you would hear that, and it came out on the record, and I really liked it. It wasn't polished, and that's the rawness that I liked about it. It just had a raw, gritty, in your face kind of rock and roll feeling.
Yeah, and the kind of interesting thing is, I seen on your Facebook page this afternoon, Vince, that you were kind of talking about the fact you're going to be doing this interview tonight, and you're discussing it with some of the people, some of your fans and stuff. And I agree with what a lot of the people were saying. One thing that really makes it such a great album, Too Fast for Love, is you put that album on, and it sounds so fresh, sounds so raw, like you said, and it sounds like one of those albums where people say they have their whole life to write their debut album, and you can hear in every one of those songs how hungry that band was at the time to make it.
Yeah, you hit it right on the head. They were very, very hungry, and they were doing anything possible. They were taking no prisoners when they put out that album. They put every ounce of energy that I think they probably had into that album, just trying to make it. Because it was a tough deal over there, except Gig in Hollywood trying to make it as that kind of band. Nobody was used to it, for one. It was totally different from anything anybody had ever heard before. So when they made that album, when they got signed by Elektra, they were getting ready to go on a Canadian tour. And so Elektra said, hey, we need to remaster this album. Let's add some more stuff to it so we can put this out as your guys' touring album, prior to you leaving.
Yeah. And while we're still on the subject of the song Public Enemy #1, that was co-written by a guy named Lizzie Gray with Nicky, who they used to be in the band London together. And I recently had the chance to talk to Lizzie about his band Spiders and Snakes, and just an interesting fact that I don't know if a lot of people are aware of it. He's been suffering with Parkinson's disease, but he's a great talent in himself, and I just again, that's one of the really standout tracks I think on the album. Now, it's one thing to hear Motley Crue, but of course their look is as big as the sound. So I got to ask you, like, the very first time you seen the Livewire video or whatever on MTV, or you actually seen a photo of the band, what was your impression? Because again, their look is as big as their sound.
Oh yeah, it was cool. This is dressed in all the red. He's got his leather on, red leather outfit on there. It looked good, and it was just like raw in your face, kind of music. And if you were captured by the music, you were captured by their stage presence. But to be one or the other, it was definitely going to hook you. But when first time I ever saw the Livewire video, I was like, wow, this is amazing. These guys kick ass. So I was very, very impressed.
Yeah, and again, just looking at the Livewire video, I mean, that video in itself, that was one of the first things they put out. And if you look at some other videos they did later on, it's not as polished. It's so raw and in your face, and that's what they were at the time. And they weren't trying to be anything else but what they were.
No, and it's funny too, because when we play that song, I think it's harder for us to book our band as Public Enemy #1. One, because nobody really knows Public Enemy #1 unless you're a true Crue head. And if you know Public Enemy #1, it's from the first album. But a lot of people are like, they hear it for the first time when we go and do shows, and they're like, wow, I've never heard that song before. I'm like, well, it's from 1981. One of their first songs they ever did, so they're kind of blown away by it, and they really liked it after they hear it. But a lot of people really didn't know that song, and so when we go to book our band, they're like, why do you name your band Public Enemy #1? Are you troublemakers, or what's going on? I'm like, no, that's a song from the very first album.
Yeah, and the funny thing about that is, I bet you would be interested. I bet you'd be surprised yourself, Vince, if you did a little research to find out I can't even tell you off the top of my head, but I can't tell you how many movies or TV shows I've heard that one song in. It just amazes me. And typically, like you said, a lot of people, they think of Too Fast for Love, Livewire was a single, but then you got other songs like Piece of Your Action, Take Me to the Top. These are songs that are still in the set list, and these are songs going back, like you said, all the way back to 1981, and they're still being played.
Yeah. I mean, when we perform, we actually perform, because Too Fast is my favorite album of all time. We do perform a lot of stuff off there. We do Live Wire, we do Public Enemy #1, Piece of Your Action, we do Starry Eyes, we do Too Fast, and we do On With The Show. I mean, that's pretty much the whole entire album, and people are just like, wow, a lot of bands don't do that, and it's cool to hear that. Especially On With The Show is probably my if I have to pick a song off that album, that's my favorite song, it's On With The Show.
Yeah, and the cool thing about On With The Show, like you said, while the diehard Crue fans may know that song, it's like one of those deep cuts that a lot of people are not aware of unless they're a real diehard. And that's another cool thing about what bands like you guys do, Public Enemy #1, is that as much as you have to play the hit songs, you're able to turn people on to songs that they're maybe not as aware of.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly why we do that too. And it's funny because I've had people come up to me after the show and they go, I've never heard that song before, and so I'm like, wow, it's not played very much, and they don't play it at all anymore.
Yeah.
Motley hasn't played that since, I think, Carnival of Sin in 2005, so it's been a long time since they played that song, and it's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
I'm sad to not see them do that on the final tour.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you, speaking about the fact that they're on their final tour, what do you think about that? I mean, I think they're kind of, at the place and time when they can do that, but I'm kind of, I don't know if I totally believe that they're never going to tour again. I think we'll, from time to time, maybe have a new track or two, and of course Nicky's going to continue on with 6 a.m. as he should, but I think it's kind of a sad day if Motley Crue really really packs it up for good.
Yeah, I see it every day because I have a lot of fans that follow my Instagram page, and so I see it all the time. These sad postings like, can't believe this is the final tour. It's the ending of all things that we love, and so they say all bad things must come to an end. Well, I guess this is one of them, but I think this is the very end. Absolutely not. I mean, these four guys, they've known each other for 35 years or long, a little over 35 years. So, I don't think this is the end. I think they're actually probably going to do some residencies in Vegas, and Vince lives there, and so he's not going to give up. He doesn't want to stop. I definitely know that.
Yeah.
But I think Mick Mars actually wants to branch out. I saw Karabi this past weekend, and I kind of put that in his ear about him and Mick Mars getting together, and he just smiled. So I think that's definitely going to go down next year after this tour is over. So I'm excited to see that happen too for Mick. He's waited a long time to do that. Yeah, I mean,
I've seen actually Mick Mars, like a lot of people, when he was on Matt Metal show a few months back, and he was talking about all that and the fact that I've heard him saying he's been working on a solo album. I would kind of be interested, even if it's just like he's talking about doing a couple of ways, either just like instrumental stuff or bringing like different singers. And Karabi's one he definitely mentioned he wanted to work with, and so I'd be interested to see what Mick comes out with, because nobody's ever heard him do anything outside of Motley Crue, and people can say what they want about Mick Mars, but the interesting thing is, he along with Nicky is one of the main songwriters in Motley Crue, so he's one of the guys that has always been kind of very important part behind the scenes, but he doesn't necessarily get the credit he deserves.
Absolutely, I totally agree. Yeah, and when you think of Mick now, I mean, look how much pain he's going through just to finish his tour up. I mean, I'm sure his back is killing him.
Yeah.
His back is killing him, but he's just wrestles through. That's the warrior that he is, and he is one of the most underrated guitarists I've ever heard of. He just doesn't get the credit he deserves, like you said. Yeah,
I mean, I think it's kind of cool that he finally came out and let people know what he's dealing with, for the simple fact that for years I would read things about people say, oh, Motley Crue's a great band, but the guitar player just, sits there. He doesn't move around, and well, unfortunately now we all know why, and so I think he's just a trooper, and I'm excited to see what he does next, like you.
Yeah. So what did you think of Twisted to Town and Tonight? Did you like those covers? The covers that they did from the Raspberries, and did you like Twisted to Town?
Well, I definitely gotta say, I did like a lot of people, that was time when I really started getting into Motley Crue, when they released Cedar Pain. I heard Home Sweet Home, and and Smoking in the Boys' Room. I thought all the stuff they've ever done by other people. I mean, even if you look at like the Jailhouse Rock and the Girls album, I've enjoyed everything they've they've done. But like if you put Theater of Pain next to Too Fast for Love, they're both both got elements of glam, but I think Too Fast for Love, it was a little bit more of a punk element, it's a little more of an edge. That's what I kind of like more about Too Fast for Love, because not that I really dislike Theater of Pain, but that also is why they only had really two popular songs off that one album.
Yeah, I agree. And it's funny because that's actually my guitarist Frankie, that's his favorite album. I'm like, man, they only really had a couple good, really popular super hits on there, But if you look at something like Shout or Feel Good, those have, almost a whole entire album is full of hits. So, and Grove was a great album too. I think my least favorite album is probably Theater of Pain.
Yeah. I'd have to say the same. And again, not necessarily, but I think a lot of it was just filler material, and the guys were going through everybody were going through at the time. I mean, really, the two standout tracks are the two singles, Smokin' and Home Sweet Home. But I think the rest is pretty much just filler material, and even if you look at Dr. Feelgood, people kind of say they sold out on that album, but you know what? They had a #1 album, and like you said, it's 10 great tracks,
Yeah, that album was mastered a lot. They did a lot of work on that album. It was almost overproduced in a way, in my own opinion. They had a lot of stuff in there that they really couldn't duplicate back in a live show without using tracks behind it, That kind of hurt it a little bit, but I still like that album. I absolutely love it, It's one of the best albums I think that they did, so.
Yeah, and that's what edges it out for me between again, Too Fast for Love and Theater of Pain both got real glam elements to them, but I think going back all the way to Too Fast for Love, it's got a little more street cred, a little more rawness to it, a little more of a punk environment. That's the cool thing about Motley Crue. If you look at everything they've done, no two albums sound just alike. I mean, there's something for everybody. Which I got to ask you as a fan, Vince, talking a little bit about Too Fast for Love now, going back to when you heard Shout at the Devil when that was first released, how surprised were you to hear such an extreme, difference in between the two albums?
I was really surprised, actually. I think they were kind of looking for a shock and awe. They didn't really need that because Too Fast for Love kind of stood its own ground. I mean, that was a great album, but I think that, when they signed with Electra, said, hey, we need something that is shock and awe. And they're like, all right, you want shock and awe? We'll give you shock and awe. How about Shout at the Devil? So, and then they had all the interviews about that album when it came out, saying, oh, it's a Mystic album and all that stuff. And so that's what they wanted. I mean, they got the best that they wanted off that album. So I think they got what they're looking for.
Yeah, and the interesting thing when you compare those two albums is like Shout is such a darker, heavier album. But like again, a couple months back when I seen Mick Mars on that metal show, and I've read in some interviews he's recently done, he says, Too Fast for Love is still my favorite album. He says, I'll tell you why. He says, #1, it was the first thing we ever did, first thing that ever came out. That's the first time anybody heard Motley Crue for the first time. And he said, that was my first experience like in a professional studio, although I'm older than the other guys and we've done other things, but that was the first professional, recording I'd ever done. And he says, so for that reason alone, that's my favorite Motley Crue album. And he said, Shout at the Devil is just so much darker. I mean, I heard Tom Kiefer on the same episode of that metal show, the singer from Cinderella, he's saying, I love Too Fast for Love too, for a simple fact. It's the first thing I heard from Motley Crue ever, and just the track Livewire alone, he said, first time I heard that reminded me a lot of the stuff, that I grew up on, in the 70s.
Right.
Yeah. And
I'll tell you something, J-Rock, I covered a piece of Your Action. I don't know if you've seen that video. I was just practicing it in the studio doing Piece of Your Action. I recorded it, and so I posted it on my webpage, and that video got 6,000 views in 2 months.
Wow.
And I mean, it's, I'm a tribute guy, I'm a tribute singer. So for that thing to get 6,000 views in 2 months, it tells you people really like that song. They heard Piece of Your Action, like, wow, man, we haven't heard that song like that in a very long time. And that's one of my favorite songs, too, to perform live, is Piece of Your Action. It's so gritty and in your face, it's like a punch in the throat.
Yeah.
It's such a great song.
Yeah, and of course, talking about being a singer in a tribute band, when you see stuff like that, does it ever make you think? Because again, being in a tribute band, you got to have something special to offer. Kind of have to have a little niche sometimes. And does that ever give you an idea like, hey, maybe we practically play all the songs from Too Fast for Love. Maybe that'd be a cool thing to do one day. Put a show like that together and just play the whole album from start to finish. That's something you'd ever think about doing?
Yeah, that's pretty funny you said that. I was just talking about that today with somebody, and because Bobby Blotzer, he has a tribute band. Bobby Blotzer is Rad Experience or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're doing this full album of Privacy of Your Invasion of Your Privacy.
Yeah.
Whatever that album's called. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're doing the whole entire thing, and I was like, wow, that'd be cool to do the whole album of Too Fast for Love in the show, because there's so many great songs on it. It wouldn't be hard at all to do that show. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. That'd be totally cool. Now, I interview tribute bands all the time, and I got this one friend who he's in a Kiss tribute out here called Co-Ed Kiss, and he was telling me that they recently went in the studio and they decided they're going to put out like a five or six song EP, like an actual physical CD. Is that something you guys would ever toy around with, going in the studio and like recording your own version of some Motley Crue songs?
That's funny. We wouldn't do that per se.
Uh-huh.
I tinkered with the idea of taking some other songs from other bands and then mottling them up, if you will, and make them sound like a Motley original song. So, we talked about doing that, and I think that would be a lot of fun. Because my voice is pretty close to Vince's, so I think if we did that and produced some people would maybe think that was a cover of Motley, and it would kind of throw them off. But I think that'd be a cool thing to do.
I mean, that would to me, that would like be the ultimate tribute to Motley. I mean, you guys are already paying tribute to them, but to kind of put out like even a CD, like you're saying, of original material written by you and the rest of the guys in your band, it's saying, hey, Motley Crue's why we're doing this. They're the ones that inspired us, and this is kind of the music we grew up in. This is our version of that. Because oddly enough, a band like Fozzy that's got Chris Jericho, who originally was known just as a wrestler, Fozzy's becoming pretty successful. They put out their own original music now, but they got started like just being a cover band.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought about doing that too. It was like, I just don't know if people would freak out here and be like, okay, it sounds like Motley, but it's not really Motley. I don't know what's going on here, because I don't think they've ever covered this song, or if they've ever done this. I've never heard this from Motley. So I just told the guys, I said, that'd be something to really throw people off, is to do our own original song during the show and see if anybody catches on.
Well, to me, the cool thing about it as a fan would be this: is I know a lot of guys that are in tribute bands, obviously Vince, because of what I do, and a couple of them, even got to the point of merchandising their band. But I could see putting out a CD like that, and I'll tell you why. Because it'd be one more thing to give your fans. I'll tell you what I mean is, you put out a CD like that, somebody can come to a Public Enemy number show. They might see you guys have a CD for sale at the merch booth, and then they'll say, oh, okay, oh, wow, something original by these guys. I'll check that out. And then, maybe down the line you could start to throw, a couple of the tunes in the set, and it's just, again, one more thing to give your fans, that other Motley Crue tributes aren't given to people.
That's a great idea, J-Rock. Yeah, I'd definitely be interested in doing that. And, too, is that if I was going to do that, I would want to do something that you would most likely maybe heard off of Too Fast for Love.
Yeah.
I want it to be raw, and I want it to be unprocessed. I just want it to be raw and gritty. So if I'm going to do it, I don't want it being mastered and remastered and mixed and everything like that. I just want it raw and gritty. So if we're going to do something like that, I would definitely want it like a Too Fast album version of the song. And
the cool thing about that, again, is, since it's your own original tunes, you wouldn't have to worry about paying a licensing fee or anything. And again, it's just another thing to show your fans, hey, this is what we can do, or this is what we do on the side. I mean, I know guys that through doing the tribute band thing, playing the tribute scene, they get their own original music out there. I mean, there's a guy out here in Hollywood. He's in a Guns N' Roses tribute, and he plays Axl Rose in Hollywood Roses. That's the name of the band, and he used to be the singer at one time in Steven Adler's band, and he had his own original band called Dope Snake. He was in a movie. He got a CD release just because people knew him through the Guns N' Roses tribute band.
Right. Yeah, I was talking to a guy today who actually he produces movies too, and he's a producer and he actually is a film director. And he was talking to me about doing a movie, so maybe that's something in the works too that we're going to be looking at doing. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, another cool idea I think, movie or even like a documentary about like just all of what goes. Have somebody follow the band around, like when you guys are doing a show, even just one show what goes in, the costumes and getting them dressed up. Because I gotta tell you, Vince, part of the reason I started doing these interviews with guys like you playing the tribute bands is I've been to several of these tribute shows and I enjoy it immensely. But there's a big misconception. A lot of people do not realize all the hard work and dedication that goes on to putting on a show like this, like with Public Enemy #1 does. Because for a simple fact, I mean, this is more than just four guys in their jeans and t-shirts giving us an evening of Motley Crue. You guys have to look the part as much as sound the part. And I mean, I'm looking at the pictures on your band's Facebook page right now as we speak, and you look almost as, if I didn't know any better, I'd be sure I was looking at a photo of Vince Neil. You look that good. So to look that good and sound the part, I mean, it takes a lot of hard work and dedication. So share with us a little, I mean, how hard is it to look the part for you?
It takes me about 3 hours to get ready for the show. So we usually go and set up, and then we go back and we get ready, and it takes about 3 hours to get ready. So it does, and I'm glad. Thank you very much for bringing that up. I really appreciate that somebody recognizes how long it does take us to get ready. Because we got to get all of our stage clothes together, then we got to do hair, and we got to do makeup, and then then we kind of warm up a little bit and get ready. So that's if you realize it's about a 3-hour process prior to you even hitting stage that night. So we do about 2-hour shows. So we're prepping for 3 hours for a 2-hour show. People say, it doesn't make sense, but to do it right and to pay tribute, to the band that you're doing, you have to put the time and the work in to do that. So I appreciate that you recognize that.
Yeah, because what I love about bands like Public Enemy #1 here is you guys really got it down. I mean, it's rock. To me, this is rock and roll theater. That's the best way to describe it. I mean, because again, I think a lot of people, because this is not a band like Kiss where you got to get all in the kabuki makeup and stuff. They think, these guys, they just put on their lipstick and their eyeliner and whatever, and it takes them just a few seconds. But I mean, again, looking at the photos, I mean, you really have to look the part. I mean, it's like casting a movie. You got to have the talent. You got to be able to sing the part. Because a lot of times when somebody comes to one of your shows, like, you might be taking them back to the first time they heard Too Fast for Love on the radio, or very first time they seen Motley Crue in concert, So that's what it's about, I think,
Yeah, let me tell you, maybe when you're in town, J-Rock, we'll have you come backstage and see what we go through to get ready. It's a lengthy process. You'd be like, Jesus Christ, you guys are insane for wanting to do this, but, it's fun, man. We have a good time, and we love our audience. We love the fans that follow us around. It's a good time. It's a lot of work, but it's a great time, and we love Motley Crue, so, it's worth it.
And so you guys are pretty big, from what I understand, in the Phoenix area. So have you guys ever try to go to other states, or are you doing pretty good business right there in Arizona where you're at right now?
We just got signed on with a management company called Big Buffalo Management. So we are leaving next month for 2 shows in Idaho, one in Idaho Falls and one in Pocatello.
Oh, wow.
But then we're booking a whole bunch of other stuff, and they're booking all for next year. So this year we're kind of like, not doing as much as we wanted to do, but next year we're going to be slammed.
Well, I mean, that's a sign right there, but you guys are definitely on your way. I mean, again, anybody visits the Facebook page, I think they'll be just impressed with the photos up there. Now, you were mentioning earlier that you had you had an opportunity to talk with John Carabia. I wonder what was that experience like? John Carabia, obviously a singer in Motley Crue at one point. Talking to a guy that pays tribute to Vince Neil. That must have been an interesting conversation.
Yeah, the funny thing about it is, I was standing up at the front gate, right by the stage, right in front of him, and I kept on seeing him look down. He wore sunglasses when he was on stage. He kept on looking down at me, and then he'd look back up and keep playing and singing, and then he'd look back down again and then keep up, start playing again. And so his show had ended, and I was still standing there waiting for the Rat tribute to come on, and so I was standing there waiting, and somebody came up and put their arm around me, and I looked back, and it's John Carabia. And I said, oh my God, you scared the shit out of me. I didn't know that was you. And he goes, oh yeah. He goes, I saw you down there jamming for the show. Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate that. He the weirdest thing about it is I kept on looking down and I was seeing this guy. He goes, "What the fuck is this Neil doing at my show?" And I was thinking, that's pretty funny. I go, it looks like he goes, "No, I swear, dude, I was looking down and I swear to God, I thought I saw Vince Neil standing in front of me." It was kind of eerie in a way, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Neil was at my show, so.
Yeah, you know, and another interesting thing, Vince, is I was looking at some of the pictures on your personal Facebook page, and it's kind of interesting, some of the photos, because it seems like you've got Vince down, you know, all his different looks throughout the years. So is that something that's hard to do? I mean, how do you decide, like, okay, I'm gonna get dressed up like Vince from 1991? How do you decide, like, what look you're gonna go with?
We actually we talked about it before, but we're getting ready to do the Girls Rose Rose Tour next December. We haven't done that one yet. We've done Theater Pain, we've done Shout, we've done Feel Good. So we've done all three of those eras, but this era that we're doing now is actually the Girls Rose Rose era. So we had custom costumes made. I think I told you before that I make all my own stuff.
Yeah.
And then my guitarist went out and had all mixed stuff made. And the drummer is having his stuff made for Tommy, and our bass player getting all that stuff together for Nikki. So, this tour that we're going on now is the Girls tour. So things that you would have saw, even the lighting, everything like that, we're doing exactly as you would have seen in 1987.
Wow. And, you know, and getting back to John Corabi, because as big of a fan as I am of original Motley Crue, I gotta say, you know, that one album they did with Corabi, I thought it was, for obvious reasons, very underrated. I mean, I thought, you know, it would probably have been like Nicky himself has said, probably would have been a better selling album if they'd called it anything but Motley Crue. But I've been a fan of everything John has done since. You know, he had a band Union with Bruce Kulick from Kiss. I love the Unplugged thing he put out a few years ago. I can't wait to see what he does next, because I actually had a chance to interview John about his Unplugged album, and he's supposed to be working on a more like electric, harder edged rock album. I can't wait to hear that. But I really love everything John's ever put out, and he's such a talented guy. But I was as big of a Rat fan as I am. I'm so glad to see him finally leave Rat, because I think he just did not get to do everything he's capable of in that band. I think that's obviously why he left. I'd much rather see John Corabi, lead singer, than just playing rhythm guitar.
Exactly. It's funny too, is because to be honest with you, I'm not gonna lie, I was never a fan of Corabi. I was always a fan of Vince.
Yeah.
I thought the original singer should always be with the band, blah blah blah. And then that totally changed me when I went to see them on Saturday night. I saw him play live, I saw him sing live, and I was blown away. And then when he came up and he was so personable to me, thinking I was Vince Neil, and then talking to me, I was like, wow, this guy is really, really cool. And I didn't give him half the chance, because I was like, well, he came in and kind of, booted Vince out, which he didn't do, but it was kind of like a slap in the face to Motley Crue fans that they were there from the beginning with my opinion. But after I talked to him, he is one of the most nicest guys you will ever meet. And I'm sure you know that already, but he's a great guy and a phenomenal vocalist and guitarist.
Yeah. And I got to ask you again, because I know that Public Enemy #1 has been your main project for the last several years, but I know a couple months back you were involved with a couple other projects. I think one was called Girls, and then there was another one called Hooligan's Holiday, which obviously you must have played stuff from that Corabi era album. So you're no longer involved with those two?
No, I took a step back, and trying to sing for three bands, three different stages is really, really tough for me. So I just took a step back and started just focusing and working on everything in Public Enemy #1 to try and make it a bigger and better show and tighten things up and get things together. So but actually I started a new project too called the Bret Michaels show. It's the Bret Michaels Experience, and so that ought to be interesting to see that show too.
Yeah. Can we just talk a little bit about that? I was kind of interested when you told me about that the other night in setting up this interview, because I'm a fan of both, Motley Crue, Poison, Vince Neil, Bret Michaels solo stuff. But Bret Michaels and Vince Neil are they're two totally different types of singers. So I guess you're obviously a Poison fan, huh?
Yeah, I do like Poison. I know Poison and Motley were never really fans of each other, but there were times when those guys did tour together and they got along, but they're not huge fans of each other, so it's kind of funny to do a Motley tribute and something that has to do with Poison. So it's a little bit different, but I always like Bret Michaels has a great he's a great vocalist and a good stage presence. I really enjoy your stuff, and so that's why I wanted to do that. And there's really not a whole lot of Poison stuff going on right now.
Yeah.
As far as the tribute scene is concerned, so I thought, what the hell, I might as well do that, it'll be fun.
And the Bret Michaels experience, it sounds like a cool idea, so I assume besides the obvious Poison hits, you're going to put in some of his solo material as well.
Yep, definitely, that is definitely part of the plan. I'll be doing some of the Bret Michaels songs and a lot of the Poison stuff. I think most everybody that relates to Bret Michaels is going to want to hear all the fan favorites from Poison, which we do. There's I would say about 12 songs that we do from Poison and about 4 from the Bret Michaels solo album.
Yeah, and the thing with me, like a lot of people, obviously, I first became a Bret Michaels fan because of Poison, and the thing I think is really a shame is, I used to look forward when they go out and do their summer tour, up until a few years ago. I mean, he's doing a solo thing now, but the sad thing about it is, like, he'll release like a new solo album every couple of years, but it's basically like you're getting like two or three new songs, and then a lot of his greatest hits, rehashed, and then I guess other guys in Poison are wanting to tour and record, but he's off doing his solo thing. So I'd kind of be interested to see, if we ever really see anything from Poison again. But if not, they've definitely made their mark in the world. Now, the Bret Michaels experience, have you guys actually done any shows yet, or are you just prepping for it?
Yeah, no shows yet. That's actually a brand new band, and I finally got all the members together. I went and handpicked all my members that I wanted for it, and I got some really great people on in this band. Scott Mullen actually is the guitarist for it, and then a guy named Chris he's my bass player for Public Enemy #1, and ironically, he's going to be my drummer for the Bret Michaels experience.
Oh, cool.
And I picked up a new bass player. His name is John. He's a great guy, too. So these are really polished musicians. It's going to be a really good tribute.
Yeah, and I think that it's always cool to like do something new like that. And I'll tell you, there's a couple Poison tributes that are starting to pop up, but I think, with what you're doing with the Bret Michaels experience, you're going to have a little niche right there, because nobody else, except for Bret Michaels right now, is doing his solo material, obviously. And so I think it's a little extra something that you're giving to the fans, when they come see the Bret Michaels experience. They're getting both Poison and Bret Michaels.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, some of the solo stuff, no bands are playing. It doesn't matter if they're a cover band or a tribute band. Nobody's doing any of the Bret Michaels stuff. And there were some, he's got some really great songs on there, too, from the solo stuff. And so I think people will be really surprised to hear that. When I first brought it out, I told people that I was thinking about doing it, and they said, "Wow, that'd be great to hear some of the Bret Michaels stuff that you don't get to hear, like Girls on Bars and stuff like that, and songs like that." And All I Ever Needed is another great song that we're going to be doing. So I think they'll be surprised to hear that stuff coming out. And it hasn't been relayed yet, but I'm sure after this video it will be. But we're going to do some Bret Michaels stuff too, and I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, that's great. I was kind of interested, like, would you ever like put together like a Vince Neil experience? Because interesting thing to me is, like, I like a lot of his stuff on his first solo album, Expose, and he did a cover album, Tattoos and something, a couple of years ago. I thought stuff on that was pretty good. But oddly enough, like, even if you go see the Vince Neil band in concert these days, the majority of the set is Motley Crue songs, not Vince Neil songs.
Right, yeah, and he had some great stuff, on there. And you're invited, you just can't come in.
Yeah.
You're never going to hear that song again. I am telling you, you'll never hear that song again. It's great. I love that song. It's funny. The video is hilarious. I love that song, and you're just never going to hear it live again. Yeah,
and interesting story here is I actually had a chance to interview the bass player Phil Sousan, who used to be with Ozzy Osbourne, going back to 1986. And he was really involved in that first album with some of the songwriting. And I guess the reason Robbie Crane stepped in as a bass player was Stevens really wasn't a big Phil Sousan fan, and there was problems between the two of them. But that was a really great band on that first album,
Yeah. I think I would like to hear, if I ever did do, Vince Neil experience or something like that. I definitely want to pull those things out, like You're Invited and Can't Have Gigs, stuff like that. So, there's some great stuff off that album, so, I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's see if that happens.
It's just kind of interesting because, like, I guess even Vince himself, kind of, I guess, at least is smart enough to think, there's more of a demand for Motley songs, so I'm going to play, since I'm the Motley Crue singer, the voice of Motley Crue, I can go out and, sing these tunes. So it's kind of interesting that even during his own solo set, he doesn't play too much of that material.
Yeah. I mean, I would like to hear Sister Pain done live again. I mean, I haven't heard that song ever done live except for, it's just I sing it myself, so to actually hear Vince sing that song might be kind of cool, but I don't think that's ever going to happen.
Yeah, and getting back to Too Fast for Love, when they released that a couple years back, they put on Toast of a Town as a bonus track, which was one of the original singles that predated that album. That's one of the songs they first played back in the club days, and I was kind of curious what you thought about that song, Toast of a Town, and if that's the song that you've ever played.
I love Toast of the Town, but no, we have never played that song live. I'd love to, but we just haven't done that yet. Toast of the Town and 6 Year Guns, those are awesome songs. I mean, if you're a Motley fan, you definitely, love those songs, and they're the hidden tracks that nobody knows about, Yeah,
and I gotta say, Vince, I'm very glad to hear that, you got involved with those other projects, but you kind of gone back to, home, so to speak, in the sense that Public Enemy is, where you got your started, and I think it's, if you just stick to one thing, kind of, as far as Motley Crue wise, that you can really make this project your own, and as far as you and the rest of the band, I mean, and because you guys are definitely on your way. I think you guys definitely got something special to offer. I mean, you told me you just signed this new deal with this management, so that definitely tells me that there are other people out there that think you guys are definitely on the way up.
Well, thank you, J-Rock. I appreciate that. Yeah, I hope so. It's been a long time. Like I think I told you before, this is my 7th year doing the Motley tribute thing. So, I think I've done my time, and it's time for something to happen. Either that or hang it up. But no, I don't think I'll do that. But it's definitely time for something to happen. I'd like to be able to tour and just take this band across the United States and play. And I'll play 4 shows a week. It doesn't matter to me. I just love it, and the people are great, and it's great to see them out there smiling and dancing and hearing songs that they don't get to hear anymore. It's fun, man. It's a really good time. And
they're starting to, and a lot of these tribute bands are starting to do residencies like in Vegas and different places like that. The last thing I want to ask you before I let you go, Vince, is they got this great TV show out here in LA where I'm from called The World's Greatest Tribute Band. Are you at all aware of that, or is that something that you definitely ever want to try to get involved with?
I actually reached out to them, but if you're not from LA, you don't get to play on it. The girl I talked to, I told her, I said, man, we'd like to, go to at least audition for this. And she said, well, if you're not from LA, because I said we were from Arizona, she's like, well, if you're not from LA, then it's going to be very tough for you to get on this show.
Wow.
Pretty much saying, well, if you're not in LA, then we don't want you. So.
Well, that's kind of interesting to hear. But in any event, everything happens for a reason, I think you guys are definitely, you're doing it by your own rules, and that's what matters. But I want to leave you with this thought, Vince. I would really love to see you guys do like a CD like that. What we were saying with you guys doing some kind of original music, because again, that would just give something extra to fans, and it would prove one more time. It would really show people that these guys, they got more. They're more about than just getting dressed up like they're heroes. They've actually got some talent here, and they're just doing this for fun,
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree, J-Rock. And like I said, I've talked to our guitarists about that before, and we've had a couple of drummer changes lately, and hopefully we've walked down a new drummer and everything's good there. So if that indeed does happen, I will definitely start, working on stuff. As I think I told you before, I'm a singer-songwriter, so I'm not new to songwriting and writing music. So definitely something to look forward to.
And let me ask you on that front, Vince. As much as you enjoy doing the Public Enemy #1 tribute, I would imagine having that ability to, as a songwriter, you must every so often at least get that itch to kind of want to do your own original thing.
I still do write. I write for my own pleasure. I write stuff. I just pick up the guitar. It's funny because I usually only play the guitar when we have shows, and lately I picked it up and started playing again, and I really missed it, and I didn't realize how bad I missed playing until I told my wife. It's been a long time since I picked up the guitar and actually wanted to play something, and I got that feeling back again, so I'll be writing again soon, I'm sure.
The interesting thing about that to me is, like I've discussed with you before, a lot of guys I know, they kind of get their music out, like we were saying, or kind of get their foot in the door through the tribute scene. And and it's kind of interesting when you think that, I mean, when you look at even just how many people contact you a day on your Facebook page, it's interesting to think that, okay, here's a guy in a Motley Crue Tribute Band, but look at how many followers he has. He's accomplishing something with this, tribute band, whereas if you'd never done Public Enemy #1, you might be a guy just, playing clubs, just trying to get your music heard. Some guys tell me, that's why I got into doing the tribute thing, because, I tried for 6-10 years trying to get my own music out there, and just never happened. But this is one way to go about it, and it's kind of interesting way, but it seems to be working for a lot of people.
Yeah, and the fans that follow me on my Facebook page are great, and I love it hearing from them, and they love the Motley stuff, and they're glad that somebody's keeping it alive. I can't even tell you how many times I've heard people tell me, it's like, Jesus Christ, man, when I listen to you sing, it's like taking me back to my childhood memories again. I'm listening to Motley, and it's fun, and it's really exciting, and so, that makes me feel really good that we're actually doing something that,
yeah,
keep people, happy. So I like that.
Yeah, and that's a great feeling, But are you ever amazed when you're sitting there chatting with people on your Facebook page and think, I'm just a guy in a Motley Crue Tribute Band and lives in Arizona, but these guys are taking the time to write to me or chat with me. It's got to just be a totally, amazing feeling.
Yeah, I say that all the time. Sometimes I have to pinch myself because people are so good to me, and they like my pictures and always comment how great they think they are. These pictures are wonderful and stuff. So it makes me feel good. And this is good people. Finally, people are great people. And I appreciate everybody that goes on my page and I'm friends with and everything. And I let them know that at the show too. I'm just a normal tribute singer, but they're good people and they appreciate what we do, and that just makes me happy.
Yeah, and let me ask you, when you're walking around Arizona, just in your everyday life, do you ever feel kind of like a local celebrity in the sense? I mean, do people notice you on the street? As far as people that come to the shows, or do you look that much different out of costume?
Yeah, no, people notice me all the time. Where I go, hey, what's up, Ben? So yeah, it's kind of cool, but yeah, and then when you have your next show, I miss you guys, blah blah blah, so it's kind of cool. Yeah, they see me, and then I've had people that I've seen at a show before, and I walk right by them, and they'll do a double take, and they won't know to see anything or not, so they just keep going,
Yeah, and the last thing I want to say before I let you go, finally, Vince, tonight is, talking about the photos just on your personal page as well as the band's page. I got to tell you, I'm really impressed that they do look very professional. I mean, you could tell that this is a band that is really serious about what they do. I mean, you guys are very serious about what you put up on the site, and I mean, anybody would think, that they were professionally. There's a Photoshop, professional photo shoot or something. That they look that good.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and that's all due to the part of Kidney Photography. That's Kristen Washburn. She does all the photos for us. Man, she's amazing. So, she makes us look really good, and I'm really grateful that that she probably takes 1,000 to 2,000 pictures per show.
Wow.
And then plus 30, 40 pictures out of those 2,000 pictures that she takes. So I love it, man, that she takes the time to do that, and we're really appreciative of that.
And so you're very busy with Public Enemy #2. Public Enemy #1 right now. But how many more months do you think before it'll be till you launch the Bret Michaels Experience?
That is actually supposed to happen by the end of next month.
Wow. Well, Vince, I will let you go because I really enjoyed talking about this tonight, as always. It's a great pleasure to talk to you, but get in touch with me again right before you're ready to launch that, because I would love to talk more in detail about your new project, the Bret Michaels Experience. We chat a little bit about today, but that's something I'd really love to help you get the word out about.
Absolutely, I appreciate it, J-Rock, and as always, man, thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview, not only with me, but with all the bands, We love the support that you show and your everything that you do for us. We really appreciate it. Just so you know that. That's
what it's all about, and my experience, like I told you before, with the bands in the tribute scene is it's like a huge fraternity. Everybody is in it to help each other. I'm sure you know who Larry Cornwell, and a little bit about his story. But I went to an event earlier this year where down in Long Beach, California, they had at the Gas Lamp, where a lot of tribute bands got together for one night. They called it Larry Palooza, and they helped him raise money for to help pay for some of his medical expenses. I thought, that was really the ultimate tribute. I thought right there, everybody in the tribute scene came out to help their friend.
Yeah, that's awesome. We try to have that here too. I mean, there's still some competitive nature going on here in Arizona. We have a couple Motley Crue tributes here, and it's still competitive. But for the most part, we all get along, and we're just trying to do our own thing and make our own marks and have fun doing it. So that's what we're all about.
Okay, well, I will let you go finally, Vince, and thanks so much. And just do me a favor, and when you get a chance, shoot me your personal email.